Hello everybody, Factosaurus here, and welcome to the second episode of How Accurate Are the Dinosaurs of Jurassic World Evolution 3. And before we get to today's animal, I just have a complaint to make, because this happened to me and I did not like it. Alright. April Fool's doesn't work on the internet. It's not an April Fool's Day. It's like an April Fool's month. The whole month you gotta be looking out because things stay. Things stay. It's not like a one and done thing. You could see someone make a post for April Fool's, but you could still see that like 2 weeks later, which is exactly what happened to me. I saw this post on YouTube that said that a new species of Tyrannititan had been discovered, and it was apparently the largest theropod of all time that we know of. And of course, I went, what? No way, that's insane if that's true. And I was like, I was a little speculative, a little skeptical. Like, well, I feel like I would have heard about that, but I was still willing to believe it, and I was actually very excited. I was curious for this to be true. I look in the comments and some guy is going, "Can I have a link to the paper?" And I'm going, "Yes, thank you." And I see the guy who made the post replied. So now I'm really thinking, oh, thank goodness there is a paper for it. Only for him to say this is an April Fool's joke, and that made me very upset. Anywho, that's that rant over. I'm done with that. Today's episode is about the one and only lovely Psittacosaurus, so I'm not going to waste any more of your time. Let's get straight into it. Here we go. Oh, look at the little guys. Look at them. Away. Oh, I've been kicked very far. Oh, wait, I actually... I'm pleased to welcome a Psittacosaurus to the park. I really like this blue color. They're all in the shadow, though. Oh boy, we're getting social animation. Alright, so Psittacosaurus, here we are. This is what we got on the wheel after the first episode with Velociraptor. And honestly, very exciting animal. Absolutely love Psittacosaurus. It's been a dinosaur I've liked for a long time. And in preparation for research for this video while I was doing that, it just skyrocketed so high. I was aware that Psittacosaurus was a surprisingly well-documented animal, but I had zero clue, like, the true extent of how much we currently know about Psittacosaurus. It's actually really incredible. And I wholeheartely believe that this is possibly the most well-understood animal in the fossil record. It is truly incredible how much we have of it, and what we've been able to discover. It's amazing. And it's because of that that I expect this will be a significantly longer video than the Velociraptor one. So, strap on in. It's going to be a long one. We're going to learn a lot of fun things today. There is so much to talk about. You'll notice the cut there. I just am trying to decide what I want to talk about. First, and honestly first, which is something I didn't really do last episode, and something that I didn't do very much thorough research on, and that's the environment that the animal lived in. I'd like to talk about that here, because this was not a fun environment to try and find out what it looked like. So, there's a lot of Psittacosaurus, and I do mean a lot, and we'll get to that in a minute. But there are a lot of Psittacosaurus species, an incredibly surprising amount, and they're spread all throughout Asia. They have an incredible range. But I decided to choose a formation that the type species is from, and it's actually been found in a couple of them, which is interesting. But I decided to go with the... Oh, shoot. These first two formations from last video and this one have been difficult to pronounce, but this one is, I believe it's pronounced the Dunshaheen formation. site is closed. You'll need to open it. No, this is about dinosaurs. This is the Dunshaheen Formation, which is in Mongolia. And wanna know how much I found on it? Like nothing. Basically, all we know about it is this, is that there was a giant lake in it. There was a very large lake, it seems. So I have that here, a little bit of islands all sparse throughout. We have some areas with shallow water. Of course it gets deeper because, you know, it looks nice. From what I've read, ginkgos are present, that's why I have them here. And the environment is presumed to be either arid or more semi-arid, which is what I went with, because last episode with Velociraptor, that was a much more arid environment. Velociraptor lived in a pretty desolate environment. So I wanted something a bit different, so I went with the more foliage heavy speculation. Yeah, and also it just fits with some talk about what we know about the coloration of Psittacosaurus. It fits a lot better if we use the semi-arid approach. So that's what I did. But yeah, from what Dunshaheen is not very well known of what it is. Other than that, it's a lake. So I got to take some creative liberties with what I wanted to do with it. But yeah. Alright. So, now that we know about the environment, let's start talking about the actual animal. And I really dislike the coloring on that. However, this one looks great. I said this one, this one looks great. Here we are. Oh wow, yeah, that really is a nice color. I love that. Okay. So, what does Psittacosaurus mean? Because we gotta do that part. Psittacosaurus means parrot lizard. I don't know. I do know why they named it parrot lizard, and there will be a history of its discovery that I will talk about. But the reason he named it parrot lizard was apparently because of the beak, which I guess kind of from the side, I could kind of see that being a parrot beak, but like you look at it from the front. Correct me if I'm wrong, parrot enthusiasts, but that's not what a parrot's beak looks like, if I remember correctly. Oh, this one is really good too. I love these more dark is this auburn, brownish, whatever color this is. I like this. Oh, the orange. Looks so good. There's so much foliage. I want one in the light. Thank you. This is an unfortunate coloration. But yeah. And the species, I believe this is supposed to be the type species. I have zero clue if it's actually the type species or not. And, oh man, do I not want to look for distinguishing features and then judge all of these species? But I believe it's supposed to be the type species, which is Psittacosaurus mongoliensis, which is kind of funny that we had two animals in a row whose type species is named Mongoliensis, which is different from a genus, right? So there's this rule with genera, where you cannot name two different genera, no matter how similar or different they are. They cannot have the same name. Just that way things don't get confusing. With species, though, a billion of them can have the same name. You can, as long as they belong to different genera. Like, you can't have two species in the same genus with the same name. But yeah, so that's why I think there might be even more Mongoliensis in this game. I don't think there is. I think these are the only two. But who knows? Maybe I'll discover that there is another one. But yeah. Mongoliensis, in Psittacosaurus, much like in Velociraptor, is not the only species in the genus. There's a significant amount of Psittacosaurus. There's an insane amount, so much that I had to write a list of how many Psittacosaurus species there currently are. At least this is a list of ones that are currently either near universally considered valid, or they have some disputation. There we go. There's some disputation about whether or not they are real, but nothing defining. But yeah, so I'm going to read out to you for a little bit all of these species, and if there's some disputed ones in the end, I will explain why exactly they are disputed. But yeah, no further waiting, let's get to it. So of course we have Psittacosaurus mongoliensis, and now starting off the list of the 8 million other species, there is Psittacosaurus sinensis, Psittacosaurus xinjiangensis, Psittacosaurus mylingensis, Psittacosaurus satayaraki, Psittacosaurus naimongoliensis, Psittacosaurus urdensis, Psittacosaurus mazongchenensis, Psittacosaurus sibiricus, Psittacosaurus lugiatunensis, Psittacosaurus howai, Psittacosaurus gobiensis, Psittacosaurus amitabha, Psittacosaurus major. Wow, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, plus Mongoliensis. 14! 14 valid, maybe valid ones. That's insane. That is the most amount of species in a non-avian dinosaur genus. It is insane how many there are. And there's been more in the past. There has been others, but they are now considered invalid. And there's also some that have not even been named yet. These are just named ones. There are some that are just labeled as Psittacosaurus species, just as the species of Psittacosaurus. That is new, but hasn't been named. So there could be even more than this. It is insane how many there are. Truly incredible. Oh, well, look at that. We got a social animation lining up. But yeah, as I said, not all of these are fully considered valid by all paleontologists. There is some dispute on some of these, which we'll talk about now. Most of these are, I believe there's not 9 out of them, or 10 if you include Mongoliensis. No, wait, 1, 2, whatever. You get the point. A lot of them, either 9 or 10, it's one of those two, I can't remember exactly, but one of those numbers is how many are universally considered valid. So that means there's a fair amount of them that are not, or that are disputed, rather. First one is Psittacosaurus satayaraki. Did I say that right? Satayaraki? Yes, I did, okay. And this species was disputed by Paul Sereno, who you may know from the discovery of Spinosaurus mirabilis earlier this year, or rather the description of it. He's the one who wrote that paper, I believe. But yeah, he's in more recent years, he's done a lot of work on Spinosaurus. But you're going to hear his name come up a lot as I talk about these species. He just really loves invalidating, or attempting to invalidate Psittacosaurus species, it seems. Let's go to a different one. You go, you're nice and green, but you're in the shade, which I don't really appreciate. There you go, I like you. So yeah, first one he tries to get rid of is Satayaraki. Satayaraki, he's labeled it as Incertacetus. I didn't mean to say it like that. Saidus. Incertacetus. Or Cetus. Man, I don't know. It's hard when you've never heard these words pronounced. You just read them. It's very strange because I'm almost certain I'm pronouncing at least one of those wrong. But I'll never know because I've never heard anybody say it. But yeah, we're gonna go with Incertacetus. And are you kidding me? Stop sleeping. You're gonna have this problem? Really? Alright, anywho. Which basically just means that he doesn't think it's a Psittacosaurus species. But he doesn't exactly know what it is. There's been no formal description if it is not Psittacosaurus, There's been no formal description of it, and what Incertacetus really means is that it would be it is a ceratopsian of some sort, but it's of uncertain placement in the phylogenetic tree. So, yeah, that's what he believes Psittacosaurus could be. Next one is Psittacosaurus ordensis, and once again, Sorino coming in to get rid of it. He deemed it as indistinguishable from Psittacosaurus sinensis. And also, interestingly, apparently Psittacosaurus naimongoliensis is by association with ordensis, possibly invalid as well. So naimongoliensis and ordensis were discovered together. And so, by association, maybe naimongoliensis is also not a true species, but that one doesn't really have any actual evidence for it, so I'm going to go with that one's probably still valid. Next is Mesongshenensis, and once again, Paul Sorino coming in hot for about the last time. Says that it is a nomen dubium. So, yeah, that's fun. Basically just means that you don't use that name anymore for something. If I'm remembering correctly, he says that because Mesongshenensis has very fragmentary material. So there's no real reason to classify it as its own separate thing. But yeah. So those are all the disputed ones, and this next one I want to talk about it's not considered invalid by any means, but it has an interesting story on how it was for a little bit. But as of modern day, when this is being recorded, it is not really. And that is Psittacosaurus lugiatunensis, which was originally seen as being much closer to a different dinosaur genus called Hongshanosaurus, and it was believed that it is closer to that than it is to most Psittacosaurus species, and thus it could be a new species of that genus. But then later, something weird happened. So Hongshanosaurus, the only species in that genus was Hongshanosaurus howi. And if you recall from when I was reading off that very long list of names of Psittacosaurus species, one of the Psittacosaurus species is called Psittacosaurus howi. And that is because Hongshanosaurus is now considered an invalid genus, and it is now considered a species of Psittacosaurus. So now Lugiatunensis, with Hongshanosaurus now being a species of Psittacosaurus, Lugiatunensis is obviously also probably a species of Psittacosaurus as well. It already was, and that claim of it being too similar to Hongshanosaurus is now not really valid anymore, since Hongshanosaurus is just Psittacosaurus. But yeah, that's pretty cool. An insane amount of species. Psittacosaurus is kind of the closest we get in the fossil record to what a real genus in today looks like. Not good with modern animals. I think I want to use Crocodylus as an example. Look at the genus Crocodylus. There's a ton of species in it. You got Nile crocodiles. I don't know the species names for this, I just know that Crocodylus is a genus. You got Nile crocodiles, saltwater crocodiles. You got all the fun. You got lots of it. But yeah, the point is that a lot of dinosaur genera are consisting of 1, 2, maybe 3 species. But most of the time it's between 1 and 2 species for a lot of dinosaur genera, for most of them. Even some of the more famous ones max out at like 2, like Triceratops, Tyrannosaurus. what's another one? Stegosaurus has 3, but whatever. But yeah, a lot of them max out at 2. But Psittacosaurus is incredibly unique because of how many species it has, which is incredible. And that is in thanks to the hundreds of individual specimens of this thing that there are. 75 of which are of the type species, that being Mongoliensis. So yeah, there's an insane amount of material for it, spread all across Asia, as I said earlier. So, and some of these are really, really intact. One specimen in particular, which will make up a lot of the more advanced understanding of this animal, and I will bring it up when we get to that point. One specimen in particular has given us an incredible amount of knowledge of this animal. And also, among those many, many specimens, a lot of them are juveniles from all different age ranges, so we have a near full ontogeny of this thing as well, which is incredible. So yeah, there will be a lot to talk about in this video. And I just realized that I've already kind of gone off structure with what I wanted to say. What I wanted to start with. I was really going to do all these species second. Oh my god, there's so much grass I put in here. I originally wanted to do all the species second. Oh whoa, we got one all the way over here, that's cool. Nice, alright. But whatever. I was originally going to start with the story of this thing's discovery, but we can do that now, I guess, and I can find a way to lead it into species and then back on track to where I wanted to go. But yeah, so discovery of Psittacosaurus starts with a man by the name of Henry Fairfield Osborn, who you will grow familiar with over the course of these videos, because he's responsible for a lot of discoveries. I didn't mention it last episode, but he also was the one who found, who discovered Velociraptor as well. But yeah, in 1922, him and a couple of others go out to Mongolia, and one of the things he finds here is a tiny little, very basal ceratopsian, which will come to be known as Psittacosaurus. He also finds a different animal in there, or at least what he presumes to be a different animal, that he names Protoiguanodon. However, one of the guys came along with him, and who actually gave him the suggestion to name this thing Psittacosaurus, William King Gregory, I believe that's his name. It's a cartoonish name, I'm sorry. I am William King Gregory. That sounds like something I would say, like if I just really need to make up a name fast for a stupid joke. It's not a real human's name. It can't be. Man, it is hard to find one of these guys that's not shoved in a forest. But yeah, William King Gregory, who gave the suggestion to name this thing Psittacosaurus, he went, no. I'm not sure about your Protoiguanodon thing. I think that's just a Psittacosaurus again. But Osborn says no. And the main reason he distinguished them as different genera is because on Protoiguanodon, I need to look at you for this demonstration. I need one that's really in the daylight for me to explain this, I'm sorry. There you go, you're good enough. Protoiguanodon, which he said that it was different from Psittacosaurus because on Protoiguanodon, it seemed to lack significant jugal horns, which are, of course we're in the bush, which are these horns right here that stick out on the side of the face. Those are the jugal horns. But Gregory says, no, I don't know about that. He looks at just overall similarities in size as well as other bones. I believe the quadrate and the parietal, there we go. I blanked on it for a second. The quadrate and the parietal bone were very similar in the two. And he says, what if it's just a different age range? And nowadays, that is what is considered valid. Protoiguanodon is not something that is considered real. That specimen is just a younger Psittacosaurus mongoliensis. But yeah, that's pretty cool. And that's how we have our Psittacosaurus with us here today. man, there's so much to talk about with Psittacosaurus. It's really hard to figure out where I want to go first, because there is just so much to talk about. Man. Is it phylogeny time? I think it's phylogeny time. So, with all of these 8 bagillion species, I'm sure you're wondering, how do they relate to each other and to other ceratopsians? And I just spoiled what Psittacosaurus is. It's a ceratopsian. How many times is it going to give me that notification? Yeah, Psittacosaurus, you wouldn't be able to tell from... Oh, the little baby. We'll get to you in a second. More little babies. Okay, wait, I need an adult one, though. There we go, we got one over here. Nice, okay. So, man, yeah. Psittacosaurus is a ceratopsian, an incredibly basal ceratopsian. Very, very old individual. It lived between 125 and 105 million years ago, in the early Cretaceous period, and it is one of the first one of the first ceratopsians that ever came to be. It is older than all Neoceratopsians, it seems. It does not, current phylogenetics suggest that it's not a Neoceratopsian, which are kind of like distinguishably, like those are the original ceratopsians, and it's older than those, which is pretty cool. I believe there's only 3 animals that it's not older than, one of which being Yinlong, which is the oldest ceratopsian ever discovered, and God, what's it called? I think it's Chanhuangoceratopsids. Can't remember if that's what they're called, but it's something, it starts with a CH, and its name ends with Ceratops. But yeah, it is incredibly old, a very basal group. However, it does not seem that it ever led up to evolving into any of the more derived forms. I should talk about that. Basal and derived, you're going to hear me talk about that a lot throughout the series. Basal basically just means old. Basal is the more primitive forms of these creatures, and derived means the more recent, more advanced, if you will, animals. But yeah, so yeah, very, very basal animal. However, it does not seem that Psittacosaurus ever seemed to really give rise to any of those more derived ceratopsians, such as Triceratops itself. Seems to have just been Psittacosauridae kind of was there, and then it wasn't. It didn't really do anything. It didn't spring out into anything really else other than that. It seems to have just been a sister group to the common ancestor that would bring about Neoceratopsia. And the main reason for this is there's 2 anatomical features on Psittacosaurus that point towards it not have really evolved into any other ceratopsians that we know, or given rise to. And one of which I really don't like that they keep doing this. I'm going into capture mode for this one because you need to get up close and personal with this. So one of which, does it not show on this model? It does not show on this model. Huh. Oh no, wait, it does show on this model. I'm stupid, it's right there. So one of these things is that, oh god, okay, yeah. Count how many fingies we have. Look at this, we have 1, 2, 3, and then a little fourth one right here. Most ceratopsians have 5 digits. A lot of them have 5 digits. However, Psittacosaurus doesn't. It has only 4. Which is interesting, because it's very unlikely that the 5th digit would have re-evolved back again. So that's one of the reasons. And then another one is that Psittacosaurus, which I actually had 0 clue about, I did not know this, Psittacosaurus does not have an antorbital fenestra, which is very, very strange. Oh, Mook. So the antorbital fenestra, which I briefly mentioned in the Velociraptor episode, is the hole, oh my god, is the hole, it would basically go right here. It's the hole in between the eye and the nose. You can see this on the Jurassic Park logo, actually. That hole in the middle right there is in the antorbital fenestra. And I'm going to go on a quick thing that I noticed about the Jurassic Park logo, and it's that it doesn't have a nose. There's no nares. So, the T-Rex skeleton on the Jurassic Park logo does have 3 holes in its skull. It has the... Does it have an eye either? I have a poster in my room and I'm looking at it right now. I don't even think it has an eye hole. Holy crap, wait, hold on.
2,000 years later.
Okay, no it does. T-Rex's orbit is just shaped a lot funnier than I remember. Yeah, never mind. It does have an eye. It does have an orbit, but it does have no nary, which is the nose hole. There are 3 holes. There's the eye, there's the antorbital fenestra, which is the one in between the two, but there is a 3rd smaller one, which is not the nose. This is a hole that not a lot of dinosaurs have, but some of them do, and one of those dinosaurs is T-Rex. That little hole is called the maxillary fenestra, because it's on the maxilla. But yeah, another just tiny little hole, but that is not the nose. This T-Rex doesn't have a nose, and it also doesn't have an infratemporal opening, but I can understand that. You might not even notice that on some dinosaurs, but yeah. Stegosaurus does not have that antorbital fenestra between the orbit and the nary, which, once again, a lot of ceratopsians do afterwards that come later, so it's unlikely that that would have come back again. So yeah, Psittacosaurus, very, very interesting animal. Absolutely love it. But it did not seem to really contribute to the diversity of later ceratopsians because, once again, like, the features it has just don't point to it, like, evolving into anything that we know of. And in terms of how all the species are related to each other, apparently there's never been a full actual study done on that. However, in 2025, actually, very recently, there was a paper done to just take a look back at Hongshannosaurus howi, and that was actually how it got. So this is very recent. Yeah, Hongshannosaurus, that's how it was determined that it is probably just another species of Psittacosaurus, which is pretty cool, if I do say so myself. Pretty awesome. But yeah. I'd say that's a pretty good phylogeny. I don't want to talk about too much about the evolution of ceratopsians in general, like how they come to be, their beginning and end, for this guy, because Stegosaurus already has so much to talk about, way more than most animals in this game. And also there are some other basal ceratopsians, namely Aqualops, which is actually one of Psittacosaurus's closest relatives, the only one of which that didn't live in Asia. So yeah, that gives us our clue that ceratopsians likely did begin in Asia, because Aqualops is the one exception. But yeah, well, I think an Aqualops will actually come to this game, as I said, because it was in Jurassic World Rebirth and a pretty major part of the marketing for it. So when the Rebirth DLC inevitably comes out, it will be added and we'll get to talk about that, which is fun. And Microceratus as well, I guess, is part of that as well. Ooh boy! So that's phylogeny done. Very basal ceratopsian, that's all we really need to know about it. I suppose now would be a great time. We talked about phylogeny, we talked about all these the insane amount of species it has, history of its discovery. I think now we should finally get to talking about the actual design of the animal and how it compares to what we know about it. Because that is the whole point of the series, to see how accurate this creature is. But yeah, let's get to it. I want to start by saying that this is actually a very great model. This is very good. I quite like this. Does it have Capideglii? Huh. I don't know if Psittacosaurus had that. I don't know if ceratopsians in general had that. Oh well. That's an interesting little texture they gave it, huh? It's almost like a turtle head. No, not that. What is it? It's like... I don't even know what part of the crocodile this is, but this looks like part of the crocodile. It looks like some sort of skin that I know exists on a crocodile. But yeah. This is a really amazing model. And that's not really a surprise, given it is one of the most recent additions to this series. This was just added as a base game creature for Evolution 3 when it came out. This was not part of any of the previous two. And as time has gone on, Frontier has gotten a lot better at designing scientifically accurate, or more scientifically accurate dinosaurs. Which is pretty cool. By no means, this is not 100%, but it is close, I will say that. It is very good, actually, surprisingly. It's very nice. Oh, it's such a shame that it's so small. And that's not the fault of Frontier, that's the fault of the animal in real life being small. Oh, in real life, I believe, like, I'm trying to remember the exact number. I think it maxed out at like 44 pounds. It was a very small animal. But, yeah. It's unfortunate because the foliage in this game is quite huge. I'm not a plant guy, so I don't know if plants are really this big. I just go outside and I see an oak tree. And I know birch trees exist because of Minecraft. But other than that, I don't know much else about plants. I mean, I just have to trust the game here. Yeah. As I said, really great model. But now we can get into the specifics of it. And yeah. The reason I said this is Mongoliensis, I said earlier, is one, because there's too many species for me to want to go in and really identify what this is. But also, just looking at Mongoliensis, which is the type species, it does generally fit this. I know a big defining feature of Mongoliensis is a flat skull at the top, which, as you can see here, this thing very much has. Can I get down low and then just like look at it like this? There we go. Yeah, you see that? Very flat skull. Very flat, so yeah. I'd say it works out for this being Mongoliensis, but yeah. Now, a lot of what we know about Psittacosaurus is thanks to one specimen in particular, which is incredibly well preserved. Amazing. And also, you know, thanks to the hundreds of other specimens that there were of this thing. It is truly incredible. So, one of these specimens, which I will say it has not been assigned as Psittacosaurus mongoliensis. In fact, it hasn't been designated as any species of Psittacosaurus. Or, sorry, any one specific species of Psittacosaurus. However, it is a Psittacosaurus. Just not Mongoliensis. However, it's likely that, you know, they are all part of the same genus. They were all likely fairly similar animals. But yeah. And that specimen, almost said species, and that specimen is, watch this, I'll get it right, unlike last time. This specimen is labeled as SMFR 4970. Alright, so this specimen is incredibly well preserved. I'll put a picture of it up on the screen now, and it kind of looks horrendous. It is horrendously crushed. That's one of the reasons that they haven't assigned it a particular species, is because of the way that of how it was preserved. The skull is very, very messed up in this specimen, but everything else, oh man, there's so much to talk about. Where was I going with this? I don't remember. Okay, yeah, where were we? I'm sorry, I just took a bathroom break. I don't remember where I left off. We were talking about head shape. Head shape is actually incredibly varied among Psittacosaurus species. It's really insane. That's the big differentiating factor between all of them. And here's a quick little photo up here of, this is in all of them, and I think some of them might have been some of the ones I talked about that might be invalid, but I don't know. But yeah, that's the only picture I can really think of that really shows the extent of how different some of them were. But yeah, like, especially Sibiricus, I mean, look at that thing. It looks really cool, but I didn't know that was that Psittacosaurus had so much variation in species. I probably would not guess that that's Psittacosaurus, because it looks, quite frankly, almost nothing like all the other ones. But yeah. So yeah, once again, that's a big reason why SMFR 4970, got it right again, is not distinguishable. And now we can actually talk about what this specimen gives us, because oh boy, does it give us so much about the animal. Really, a truly incredible amount. Oh man, where to start? We'll start with. I think the quills are interesting to talk about because that's a big different thing that Psittacosaurus has as compared to most other ceratopsians. At least in terms of what material we have of these guys. But yeah, Psittacosaurus, as you probably noticed throughout this video, oh, don't run away, has these quills on the back of its tail, which is one of the big features of specimen. I don't want to keep repeating the name of. I'm just going to call it 4970 from now on. So 4970 has those quills on the back of its tail. Yeah. Oh, something interesting I learned is that apparently one of the things originally thought when it was first discovered was that maybe it was some sort of plant material, which I mean, I guess, like plant fossils are kind of strange. They're very flat, very needle-like in some cases, so I can see why. But upon closer inspection, it was shown that these quills are way too close. Like, they were near embedded in the animal's vertebrae. Not quite there yet, but they were incredibly close to it. So it was, to the point where it would be inside of the creature's skin. And so, based on that, right, the tree probably didn't end up in such a position where it was in this nice, neat little row. Just so happened to be inside of where the animal's skin and muscle would be. So these are probably part of the animal. And they in fact were. Apparently, as well, interestingly, is that when you shine them, when they're shined? When they're exposed, that's, yeah, I like that word. When they're exposed to ultraviolet light, apparently these quills also fluoresce in a similar way that scales do. So yeah, these are pretty definitively part of the animal. And they were also likely keratinized, so that's pretty cool. And that's how we get these little quills here today. What they were for, likely display, probably. There's a possibility that they were defense, but main thing I've seen is display. So yeah. And speaking of display, colors. We know the colors of this guy, at least a little bit. Not exact colors, but there is a general idea of what it could have looked like. And before I get to colors, there is actually skin impressions as well. Just interesting. And oh my god. This is the problem when there's one of these guys with so much information. I'm going to be talking about something else and then realize I skipped over something that connects to a different thing. We're just going to go back to quills really quickly, and it's the fact that these quills, were they exclusive to Psittacosaurus? Big answer is we don't know. I have seen some depictions of more derived ceratopsians with quills on their tails as well, which in all honesty, depending on how it's drawn, either looks very cool or incredibly cursed. But there's this one of Triceratops, I believe it was Mark P. Whitten who did it. Love Mark P. Whitten. Such a great paleo artist. Also a great author as well. I'm reading his Pterosaurs book right now. I'm getting through that. It's very interesting. and I will be definitely using that as a reference for when we inevitably talk on pterosaurs in the series. But yeah, he made one of Triceratops. I'll show it now. It has some quills on the back of its tail, and it looks really interesting. I just want to point that out, that quills could have possibly been on other ceratopsians, not just Psittacosaurus. So yeah. Now, I was going to talk about color, but I think it's better to start with just general scales. Scalation? Is that a word? Is scalation a word? I don't think it is. But yeah, there have been skin impressions of Psittacosaurus, which I mean, it'd be very impressive if somehow throughout the, once again, hundreds of specimens of this thing that have been discovered, not a single one had skin impressions with it. But lo and behold, of course, one of them did, which makes a lot of sense. And I'm going to be honest, this one does not do a great job of encapsulating what the skin looked like. At least from what I read. Maybe I'm over-exaggerating what it looked like. But it is apparently large, from what I understand, that there was large scales that were placed pretty randomly, and then the slots in between them were filled up with a bunch of little teensy scales, which I'm going to go into capture mode for this, just to get a much closer light. That looks horrible. What would you say? Would you say these little nub things, feature scales, are supposed to be that? Is that what the top of the head is? I don't know. I'm gonna look at a picture real quick. Okay, after closer inspection, it appears that Psittacosaurus, the Psittacosaurus model, is still a little off, I would say, but not too far off from what is understood. There are still much more prominent, larger scales that you can see, and there is area filled in between, so, which this one kind of does. You can see the individual scales, but not down to a perfect T, which I'm going to be honest, I don't expect even from the best of models in this game. Now, as you can see, I've switched over to this more brown one, which I do have a reason for that, for when we're talking about this, and that is because we've finished talking about scalation, and it's time to talk about colors. Now, the exact colors of Psittacosaurus are not known, what exactly colors it was. However, 4970 was preserved with some melanosomes. And melanosomes are the organelles that produce pigment. So, you can compare those to that of birds and you can get an idea of how the animal was colored. And Psittacosaurus seems to have been countershaded. What is countershading? Countershading is when the animal is darker on the top and lighter on the bottom. And it does this for camouflage. You see this in great white sharks. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, why do great white sharks need to camouflage? Aren't they kind of like the biggest, most baddest shark in the oceans, except for orcas, which are not sharks, but they're better, they're more intelligent, bigger predators. Anywho, right? Great white sharks are very, very. I would consider them an apex predator, mostly, with the exception of them being eaten by orcas occasionally. But yeah, why would something like that need to camouflage? And how would that connect to Psittacosaurus? How great white sharks really work with countershading is, right, you see this, like the bottom of them is white, and then the top is that darker black, brown, grayish color. The reason sharks do this is because that way from the top, if you're looking at it just from, like, you're sitting further to the surface of the ocean, you look down, if there's a great white below you, you're not going to see it. It's this darker color, so it blends in a lot nicer. But if you're a little fishy, I can't get that far down. If you're a little fishy, further down in the water, when you look up, you got the sun beaming down on the ocean. It's a lot brighter, so the much lighter colored underside of the shark camouflages with the sun's glare, so that way it also is harder to see. Psittacosaurus likely did something similar. Of course, it's not in water, but it lived in a much more densely forested area, or at least that's what the counter shading has been proposed as an idea for the environment. It is fairly densely forested, which is why I've been having to click away from them many, many times. But yeah, if we go into capture mode, you can kind of see how it works, right? Oh, of course, you just have to stop walking right there. So right, look at it. When he's in the shadow, especially with this darker colored skin, he's a lot harder to see. Like, obviously you were paying attention to him and there's dust clouds forming up everywhere. But like, let's close our eyes for a second, right? And okay, he's still there. But the point is, he's kind of blending in. And it would have been a lot more effective in real life, of course, because if it wasn't, then there'd be no real point for it. But yeah. But interestingly, it was not only counter shaded. It was not counter shaded only. There was also some certain areas where there was more pigment than others, and these three areas were the shoulders, the head, which makes sense, display purpose, but very interestingly, for some reason, the cloaca. I think that's pretty funny. Now, if you don't know what a cloaca is, oh boy, are you in for a good time in this episode. Oh, a cloaca is just basically reptile hole. It's the everything hole. A lot of reptiles have it. All birds have it. Yeah, it's just basically one hole. I don't like this. One hole in the dinosaur's body that pretty much everything comes through or comes out of. Pee, poo, eggs, reproductive fluids. Everything's in there. A whole shebang. And for some reason the PSITTACOSAURUS has an excess amount of pigment. Who knows why? I've seen it be suggested that it was for, like, to prevent microbial infections. Well, I don't know how that works. And apparently some other people didn't either, because I read that it was disputed and it's not really considered to be true fully. But yeah, there's a really funny piece of paleo art depicting the incredibly pigmented cloaca. I remember seeing it for the first time. It's so funny. It's like, why? Number one, why'd you draw this? What inspired you? And number two, whoa, dinosaurs are just like me. Anywho, yeah, the shape of the cloaca is very similar to what you see in birds, so yeah, further proving the connection, which is really interesting because Stegosaurus is a ceratopsian, as we've said, and ceratopsians are kind of like as far as you get from birds. Birds are the most derived saurischians, and ceratopsians were the most derived ornithischians. Which is really funny. Like, in terms of dinosauria, a ceratopsian and a bird are kind of as far apart as you can get, but once again, everything comes back together very, very nicely. Speaking of birds and feathers, once again, I'm sorry, but there's more to talk about with these quills, and it's that no, they did not seem to have any correlation to feathers and theropods. They seem to have been, evolved separately. So yeah, and so yeah, feathers likely were not here. Most, if not, no, because Heterodontosaurs I've seen depicted with feathers before. But most ornithischians seem to have not had any feathery integument of any kind. The closest we get would be these quills on ceratopsians. So yeah, and especially with the analyses that they don't seem to have a similar ancestry, they're not homologous. It's likely that the ceratopsians maybe did not have feathers. But as we can see here on this model, it doesn't really have any of those brightly colored features. A lot of it is more so on the back. Here we go. Let's find one with a more extreme patterning. This one maybe kind of works, not really. Like, we've seen some crazy ones in this episode. Here we go. We got, like, this blue. It matches too well. Give me a second. Here we go, actually. Never mind. We have this brown one and this very extreme green coloration for the pattern. Now, of course, you can change the coloring on the pattern. However, the area where the pattern is stays constant. And I'm sorry, I have to move around. I can't have it be in the grass. Ooh, here we go. Like, yeah, the patterning area stays the same, so it's going to look the same for all animals. Or for everything, for all Psittacosaurus in this game. And as you can't see, because there's a bush, as you can see here, the blue and the reddish coloration here is with a bunch of these stripes that run down, there we go, that run down the entirety of the animal's body. There's this nice little streak on the eye, which I do think is very aesthetically pleasing. And it also ends up on the quills. As far as I know, quill coloration is uncertain, but I think it would be interesting. And if they are a display structure, which I think is likely, then yeah, why not? That would make sense for it to be rightly colored, especially in males. Which this is a male. The females have very reduced quills, and I think that it would have been fairly interesting if they designed the females in such a way that they actually don't have quills. Because some Psittacosaurus depictions don't have quills. It's mainly because, once again, that it is only just that one specimen. It is only 4794. Wow, I almost messed it up. Can't have that. 4970 that has those quills, from what I'm aware of. I will edit it in if it's not the only specimen, but from what I understand, it is. And since the species is uncertain for that one, who knows? Was that a thing that all Psittacosaurus species shared? Maybe, maybe not. I'm going to go with maybe not, just based on how many there are and how different they actually are from each other. I wouldn't be surprised if some of them didn't have that. Or maybe it was a sexual dimorphism thing, where only the males had them, and then the females either had them very reduced or were completely absent, which, we'll never know until we find more material. And also likely we'll never know if it was a sexual dimorphism thing, mainly because, once again, very hard to tell whether or not extinct animals are male or female without medullary tissue, because once again, there's no way to tell if it's male. Female, you can do that with medullary tissue. But yeah. Maybe it was a species thing. I think that would have been possible as well. Maybe it could have been both. Some species had them for their males, and some species just didn't have them altogether. But yeah, here you go. Here's some females with not only reduced quills, but also, it seems, reduced jugal horns as well. Man, lot to talk about with these quills here. These quills are interesting. They really are. But yeah. I was talking about was I going with the cloaca? How the cloaca isn't colored? Yeah, the cloaca is very much just... It's not even there. It's not present. Excuse me, milady. I'm gonna take a peek at you. Hey guys, editing me here. I forgot I put that joke in. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna keep it in though, because I thought it was funny. It is funny. I thought it was pretty funny. So I'm keeping it in, but yeah. Just want to record my reaction back, because I forgot I did that. I'm editing this like a week or so after I recorded this, but yeah. Anyway, back to the video. But yeah, as you can see, I seem so wrong for this. There's nothing there. There's not even a slit. But yeah, not brightly colored at all, which I guess is fine. Yeah, the most accurate depiction, from what I believe that we have of Psittacosaurus, is this model right here, which is, it should be up on screen. It's got that brown and that darkish brown, the black in some places with the more yellowish underside, which we kind of have in some of these. Not that one. Where was it? We were looking at the one I was talking about originally when we started talking about the coloration of the skin. I don't know. He's somewhere here. Is this him? No, but oh well. Ooh, actually, this little baby one is actually very good. This is, hold up, wait, this is like near identical to what it looks like. Look at him go, he's so cute, look at him. He's just a little guy, aw. And you know, that would be the end of a lot of the discussion of just stuff with the adult as well. That's a lot of what we know is just that. Some other interesting things about the adult, if we're gonna add anything last minute. Ooh, gizzard stones. Let's talk about that. We need to head over. Oh, look at all of them. So cute. Gizzard stones. What is gizzard stone? It's a stone that an animal swallows because it doesn't know how to chew. So it needs help breaking down its food. You see those a lot in other ceratopsians, and Psittacosaurus has a lot of the individuals that have been discovered had gizzard stones inside of them. I'm pretty sure the original Protigwanodon was discovered with, I think, like 50 gizzards inside of them, which is insane. Yeah. So Psittacosaurus's teeth were very much designed for a slicing motion, it seems, and so that would be an indicator as to why they had so many gizzard stones. They couldn't really chew it. It was just kind of to break off the material, and then swallow it, and then need the help of the rocks in its digestive system to break it down further. Yeah, I think that's it for the overall design of the animal, which this was very close to, I will say. But we'll get to that discussion later when we actually give it its rating. This will be, spoiler alert, this one's going to be pretty high. This is actually quite good. Oh, I love this. This looks very nice. Let's talk about locomotion with this thing, because that was a back and forth for a little bit. And it's whether or not Psittacosaurus was bipedal. Or more so whether or not it was if it was an obligate biped, which means it had to, 100% had to walk on two legs. Like humans, we are an example of obligate bipeds. We always walk on two legs. Now I don't want to hear your little things in the comments, but I can walk on four legs right now. Does it feel very comfortable? Is there practical use for this? Can you even really do it? If you're very flexible, you probably can. But, like, can you keep your full foot on the ground and your full hands on the ground and still move in a practical, comfortable way? Probably not. So, yeah. Yes, technically, if you want, we can get down on all fours if we really want to and walk around that way. But it's not useful, nor is it very comfortable. So, yeah. Psittacosaurus, for a while, is debated. It was fairly certain all the time that it could be bipedal if it wanted to, but was it fully obligated to be like that? What could have been possibly facultative quadruped, which means that it can get down on all fours if it wanted to and still use it in a practical way. So there was actually a study done on this, and it was specifically done on the two species Mongoliensis and I believe Mongoliensis, those two. And it was found that the front limbs of Psittacosaurus, in like percentage-wise, were 58% shorter than their hind limbs, which you can see here. They're a lot shorter. So it's unlikely that they could stretch very far and get that far down and have it be a practical thing to do. So, and while this was only relegated to those two species, because they are all in the same genus, all other ones that the study didn't do on likely followed something similar. Maybe there was an outlier or two, but who knows, right? Likely this is kind of how it was for most of them. This bipedal stance. However, interestingly, they found something different for adults, or something different for juvenile individuals, actually, which they actually did in-game. So, Psittacosaurus juveniles It was found that their front limbs actually mature and grow faster than the hind limbs do, which is really interesting. So their front limbs grow a lot faster than their back ones do. So that means that for some early stages of life, a younger Psittacosaurus likely did actually walk on all fours, which is, well, here he goes. When they're running, they do get on two legs. I'm not sure if there's any scientific backing behind that. Maybe. I don't know. I don't see why you would. I'm pretty sure four legs are usually faster. Don't go inside the bushes. I need to see you. Need to see you. Come out into the world. There you are. Right, yeah. So they do walk on four legs, the babies in this game, and the adults walk on two legs, which I think is really, really nice. There's no way that was not done intentionally. Like, they really do pay attention, I think, to some science for as time goes on. As I've said before, their designs have gotten a lot more scientifically accurate, at least their original ones that they do just for these games. They've gotten a lot better at paying attention to what our actual understanding of the animal is. And this really shows it. I refuse to believe this was just an accidental thing that just so happened to be real. Because there's no reason to do that. Have these guys walk on four and those on two without it being intentional. But yeah, look at them. It's so great. I love that they did that. It's really cool. One of those little things that you won't notice unless you really do research it. But they didn't care. They did it anyway, and it's amazing, and I love it. Oh, look at them stretching. But yeah. As I've stated earlier, I think we can start paying more attention to these whittle guys. And I forgot to talk about this thing. So this is called... Sorry, before we get there, I'm so sorry. I forgot about one last thing with these guys. Once again, there's so much that it's hard to remember it all. I need one that's standing, please. Thank you. Here you go, you work. Now let's just pause it here and go right in here. Now, look at it from this side specifically. Look at that. This little thing is something that they did actually have, and once again, I'll put the picture of 4970 right now on screen so you can see it. But this little thing right here, that's called a patagia, and you can see it in the specimen as well, at least the imprint of where it was. Patagia, what that is it's just a flap of skin, flap of membranous skin. Notable patagia are on like flying squirrels and stuff like that. Now, does that mean Psittacosaurus was capable of gliding down from the tree tops? No, probably not. Those are not positioned in a way that would work with that, and also, once again, the animal weighed nearly 50 pounds, so... Probably not. But they do have it, and I'm not aware of any current understanding of why they had patagia, but it was there, and I do find that interesting, and you can see it on the model I showed earlier as well, of the coloration. They did include that. Yeah, but they have that, just an interesting detail that I just remembered that I forgot to talk about. But yeah, this model does have it in game. It's much, much less pronounced than it was in real life, and also I'm noticing this, but you can see right here, it starts at the base of the tail like it does in real life, but then it only goes down till about where the knee is, but it would actually go down to the ankle. If I'm remembering correctly, it should go down to the ankle, and it'd be much more obvious that there is a giant skin flap there. But I do like that they at least give it a little nod to it here, and you are phasing inside of a cactus. But yeah, Patagia, very interesting. Don't believe any other dinosaurs that are in this game have that, so gotta mention it now while we have the chance. Now, we need to find a little baby one for me to look at, because we're going to talk about baby ones now, because there's actually, as I said earlier, a lot of younger specimens. And some of them are found in these incredibly large bone beds. So it's thought that the younger individuals in particular were very gregarious, which just means, gregarious literally just means that they like being in big social groups. One bone bed in particular had 34 skulls of baby Psittacosauruses. that were buried very rapidly. So yeah, these were very obviously very close-knit, gregarious creatures. I believe another one had about 17 baby psittacos. Yeah. And in the one with 34, in the 34 individual bone bed, there is one adult skull in there as well, and that was used as evidence for a while that there was likely some parental care involved with Psittacosaurus. But then later, a little further down the line, it was determined that that skull was not actually, probably was not the parent of those. It would just happen to be in the area when they were buried. Because this was a rapid burial, so anything in that area there, didn't matter if it was with it or not, or if it was in relation to it or not, it was just gone immediately. But yeah, this skull was determined to be around 6 years old, I believe. And Psittacosaurus, it is believed that they didn't really reach sexual maturity until around the 10-year mark, I believe. So it could not have been. It couldn't have been the parent of those individuals. So likely was just an animal, an unfortunate Psittacosaurus that just happened to be in the area when it was buried, when the babies were buried. But some have also pointed that this could just be like maybe they like took part in different individuals would go around and just take care of some younger ones if they just so happen to come across them, which, you know, maybe, but I don't believe there's been other specimens or other bone beds with this, so maybe not, but yeah. More baby Psittacosaurus news. Of course, look at these little guys. They are so incredibly small. I believe the smallest Psittacosaurus was like 5 inches long. That's not right. Never mind, it was right. I just looked. Yeah, there's one that is 5 inches long. They are such small little guys. So obviously they're pretty easy targets. Now, there was one predator that we do know definitely ate Psittacosaurus, and that animal is actually not a dinosaur. Nor is it a reptile. It's actually an early triconodont mammal called Repenamimus. So yeah, remember, this is during the Cretaceous. This is when dinosaurs are really flourishing. Dinosaurs are going to be the most, at their highest rate of biodiversity they have ever had in the Cretaceous period. They're 100% the dominant creatures on the planet. So, the fact that a mammal was preying on one of them, even albeit Psittacosaurus is not a very impressive dinosaur in terms of size and strength, it's very underwhelming in that regard. But still, a mammal predating on dinosaurs is really interesting. Yeah, Repenamimus has been discovered with a baby Psittacosaurus inside of its stomach. And I think that Repenamimus also may have attacked older individuals, but I couldn't find anything on that other than this one piece of paleo art that I saw one time. You know, occasionally maybe it did prey on adults, which I wouldn't doubt. But interestingly, this is probably a big reasoning. Repenamimus likely hunted these guys a lot. It's not that that's the reasoning as to why they make so many babies. Like, these bone beds are truly massive, as I said. The 34 individual one especially is insane. But yeah, these obviously were in large numbers. Now, this is an example of something called R-parenting, which is offspring have a very low survival rate overall, so you just have a ton of offspring. So that way, even though survival rates are low generally for one, if you have a bunch of them, at least 1 or 2 is going to make it to adulthood and reproduce. There is another pretty much complete opposite version of this called K-parenting. And K-parenting is more human analogy. This is basically what humans do. high survival rate for the offspring. But you only have like one or two. You don't need a lot of offspring because the parents are going to be around to care for it. Therefore, there's a high survival rate, and you don't want to be taking care of so many. So you just have one or two offspring. And in our parenting, you have the bunch, so that way, even though low survival rate and the parents aren't around to really care for the offspring, a couple of them will survive because of the sheer number of them. So, yeah. Hoo boy. What an eventful episode that was. Holy, we had so much to talk about with these guys. And it really is awesome, because they really are. They are such cool animals. I love them so much. But I believe that takes me to the end of what I wanted to talk about with this guy. I believe that's all I have to say. So, yeah, that's it. Let's head over to the species viewer. Alright, here we are. I just picked the skin that I think corresponds with that model that predicts the colors. I think this corresponds with it fairly well. You got that darkish brown color. With the female, I went a little lighter. I don't know why, I just felt like it, in case one of them didn't match as well. But yeah, you got the lighter underbelly. Yeah, I think this male one matches a lot better. Anywho, here we go. Let's talk about overall general consensus of what I think of this design. As I've said before, this is a really, really good design. It really is. It's pretty phenomenal. It looks very nice. It's aesthetically very pleasing, very, very accurate as well, honestly, as well. It's not too bad in that regard. It's so hard because Psittacosaurus is one of those animals that it's just like, we know so much about it that I can be really overly critical with this thing if I want to. And honestly, I should be. I kind of have to be. That's the point of the series, is to give it a rating based on what I believe the accuracy of this thing is. And of course that varies depending on knowledge. And Psittacosaurus just unfortunately is like the most well-known dinosaur, well, not well-known, but the most well-documented dinosaur I have ever seen. There's so much incredible in-depth detail that we know about it. It's really hard to, because like I could and give this thing. It is good though. Like that's a problem. It is really good. And I'm not gonna dock it because you can change its skin color. That'd be ridiculous. It really would be ridiculous to do that because you can make it that color. And I didn't mention it, but there is, once again, it's not that I didn't mention this actually. It was not that color specifically. That's just a representation of like what they believe is most likely. But they did also mention that theirs is not 100%. There could be variation in between it. There could be darker browns, lighter browns, maybe not even brown at all. Maybe it went more towards this funky orangey yellow at the bottom. Who knows? Man. This is harder than the Velociraptor, because the Velociraptor is like, sure, that's a Velociraptor if you stretch it far enough. So I don't want to rate it too. It's still very much not Velociraptor though, so I have to rate it low, but I don't want to go too bad on it. This one's the opposite. It is so good. That is definitely Psittacosaurus, but there's these little itty bitty things, like how the scales are not entirely on point, but that I can mildly forgive. The patagia is not correct. Now that I think about it, that's kind of it. It's overall, other than that, it's very good. And the babies having the correct type of locomotion as well, compared to the adults, how it's different. It's clear that a lot of thought went into this. The areas, in terms of coloration, I guess I could dock points on it for not having the increased amount of pigments where it should on the shoulders, face, and cloaca. But that's not a huge thing. God. It's like a 0.5 difference between the two that I'm thinking of, the two ratings. It's not even a full point of what I want to rate this thing. Oh, God. Okay. Okay. I think I've come to a conclusion. this, overall, is a very accurate model. It really is. And, of course, I can't pull up the babies in the species viewer, unfortunately. But man, that level of detail, I love the attention they gave it. It does, even though some features are not as pronounced as they would be in real life, it's clear that they know they were there and they put them in, like the Patagia. And overall, general shape, how it looks, it's really good. It really is. But just because of those, like some of those smaller things, like there should be, because it doesn't have to be like an exact type of color, of course, right? But more pronounced coloration where we know there was more exaggerated colors would be nice. And then also, of course, features like the Patagia not being really expressed too much are just, those are small little nitpicks. And that's why I'm going to give Psittacosaurus a 9 out of 10 for accuracy. An incredibly good model, thanks to it being a more recent edition where Frontier has learned that scientifically accurate models, the fans love them. They look very good overall. But of course, you're never going to be 100% most of the time. There will be some little things that will bring the design down. Just in terms of score, like in terms of my enjoyment, it's a very small margin. Because, like, Patagia or not, it still looks amazing. I do love this model. But stuff like that in the coloration, as I've said before, I think I've been repeating myself way too much, but I just need to preface this that those are very small nitpicks I have with it. And that's why it's a 9 out of 10 design, in my opinion. It looks very good. Whew. That was difficult. I think I spent like 10 minutes thinking about that, on how I wanted to rate this animal. Whew. Alright. Say your goodbyes to Psittacosaurus. That's the last we'll see of it for a while. And it's now the time of day where we're at the end of the video and we get to spin to see who's gonna be next on our next video of how accurate are the dinosaurs of Jurassic World Evolution 3. Let's spin the wheel. Woo! Who's it gonna be? Pachycephalosaurus. Okay, awesome. Alright. Well, see you next time. Hopefully not as long as a wait as I did this one. There was just so much to learn about this animal. But yeah, I hope to see you next time where we talk about Pachycephalosaurus. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.